All right, welcome to episode 2 of the Base Case and Build podcast. I'm here today with Dwayne Moffatt. He's one of the hosts and creators of the Inside the Den podcast and network. I mean, you guys are doing a lot more than just a podcast now. It's pretty awesome. So, Dwayne has a couple kids, but your daughter, who's 12,
11.
11, I always think she's older than she is every single time. She's
Yeah,
just so
so do I.
sharp. She's
11,
so
11 going
sharp.
on 15.
Yeah, she's just so sharp, and she recently completed the second cohort. She was part of the second cohort for our base case and build program, and so we wanted to bring Dwayne on and just talk to him a little bit about his experience, her experience, and all those kind of things. But Dwayne, is there anything I missed as far as introducing you?
No,
Anything
no,
you want to
that's
share? All right.
that's perfect, man. Inside the Den has been kind of my baby over the last little while of, what we're building, and like I said, it's turning into so much more, and it's just been so fun to be a part of. And then, in building that has kind of got access to you guys and been in proximity with you. Like, we interviewed Jay, and then of course what he's building with base case and build, I was like, I have to get my kids integrated into this ecosystem and just exposure to what I'm learning from the Wolf Den and TGA and everything, and to get kids exposed to this, I just know the power of it. So it was, yes, I need to get my oldest daughter into there. And like you said, she's seems older. She's always been the questioning one, the one that
Yeah.
has the big answer or the big questions to life and everything. And I was like, okay, well, if we can direct that in a more efficient way, not to more, but to closer, then that would be awesome.
Awesome. I love it. So I'm going to ask you some questions, and I want you to keep in mind trying to answer as though you're answering with people that have never experienced the Guardian Academy or these kind of principles before, right?
Yeah,
Because a lot of
that's
times
a
when we're discussing these, it's hard because a lot of the parents that hopefully will start to get their kids in here they don't have the exposure to these things
yeah.
yet, and so using our shared language, we kind of use that as a shortcut sometimes, and other people hear it like, I don't know what the heck they're talking about.
Yeah,
So that's just a
that's a good
little prompt for
disclaimer. Good
you.
disclaimer. Thank you for that.
Yeah. So first, I just wanted to hear what were the biggest benefits for your daughter in doing the program? What were some of the biggest things that you saw in her or that she shared with you?
Well, she's 11 and she's female. Last year she was in grade 5, and it was a really tough year for her. Just, I don't know if that's at the age of girls where they start to kind of pick their groups and start realizing what's going on in life, and start finding their place and exploring all these other things that are going on in their life. So last year was like a really tough year. This year, when she started school, it was a lot better. I guess they had all kind of matured a little bit over the summer holidays, and when they got back to school, it wasn't as volatile, I should say. So so when the opportunity, like, to kind of expose her to base case and build, and especially, like, I remember after the one lesson, it was the teammate lesson, where she came up to me afterwards and instantly could relate that lesson to something that happened during that week at school. And I was like, okay, yes, she's getting it. Like, she can take real life circumstances and apply it to a principle or a foundation, and be like, oh, I can see it from this other kid's point of view, which allows me to gain better perspective and not be mad or what, or some other negative emotion. She was just kind of open to, like, seeing it from other kids' points of view. So I just wanted to give her that exposure so she could have these tools, like, because
Yeah.
I felt last year I kind of failed in giving her those tools. I didn't really know how to handle a 10-year-old's emotional instability with all her friends. So it was like, and over the last year, I've learned a lot of these principles as well too. So it was just the benefit of that, of giving her some of these tools to work through her stuff as she goes, because as she becomes a teenager, I don't know what they're going to be dealing with, but I know she's going to need some kind of something to help her through it. More than
Yeah.
just her dad and her mom talking to her.
No, definitely. Thank you for sharing that. You talk about these tools. What were some of the ones you talked about the being a good teammate lesson?
Mm-hmm.
And what were some of the other tools that you saw her be able to apply in her life? And you noticed a difference in either in her how she lived her life or interacted with you guys, or that had an impact on her.
Well, even when you guys got them to talk about their favorite lesson, and I think Anna's I was the excuses lesson, you know, and that
Yep.
and that was one of the tools because unfortunately her being the our first child and the one we kind of expect the most from for some reason, she's she's shown us that she is able to be a big thinker, and so sometimes I put a little bit more pressure than I should on her to do things how I think they should be done, right? And then of course there's pushback, and then she makes up excuses. So having that lesson gave us both a kind of a contact point of being not me saying, Anna, you're making an excuse now, but like, oh, could you relate this to something else? Like, is this you just making up a story to make yourself feel better or me feel better, just saying things? It's and not just as like an excuse, but another reason why you don't have to do it or making up a story. So, just giving her that chance to kind of reflect on the situation and be like, am I doing this or am I correct in thinking this? So yeah, the tools, man. She's starting to build her toolbox, and it makes me very happy.
That's amazing. So that lesson, making good excuses, is what it's called, and we essentially teach the kids about. Jay has an awesome story that he shares. I won't go into it because I can't tell it like he does. But essentially, just helping them realize that a lot of the stories we tell ourselves really are just excuses,
Mm-hmm.
right? Trying to excuse ourselves, giving ourselves a justification or a reason for not doing something that we know we should do, or we want to do, or we've committed to do. That's kind of the
Mm-hmm.
basis of that lesson. And so that's awesome that was one that she. It sounds like
Yeah.
you guys are essentially building, like it's a foundation that she's able to build her life on. And it's like with that, it sounds like what you said. And correct me if I understood this wrong, but there are these foundational principles that you're able to then go back to and say, hey, you think this applies right now in this situation? Are you doing this? And she's able
Mm-hmm.
to then think through it a lot easier because she has that foundation built. Is that
Yeah.
right?
Oh, 100%. And it's even changing the way we communicate, like before, like I said, I'd be like, Anna, you're making up an excuse just to get out of this. Well, now I can kind of give her a reference where it's not coming from an accusing point of view. It's like, Anna, like, do you remember your lesson? Is this like, can you justify your answer here without thinking that you're just, making up a story or making up an excuse? And it puts her in a different place. Like she's not defensive about it. It actually makes her go like that. It makes her stop and think and reflect on it and be like, oh, okay. And then she can come to her own conclusions. And it's not dad giving her the conclusion kind of thing.
Awesome. I was just thinking about that example specifically because the making good excuses is one that Jay just has taught. And that's one that he kind of has come up with himself. That's not one that's taught in the Guardian Academy or in our other communities. So I love
Yeah.
that you use that. That's one that's helped a lot because that's one that you had to learn as a parent as well, alongside your daughter.
Yeah.
Um, but I love like the fact that you're able to approach it as a parent in a way because this can be really hard. I'm a parent as well. I have three kids. They're younger than your daughter, 6 and under. But it can be hard to talk to your children and kind of challenge them in a way that's not attacking, right?
Mm-hmm.
That can be a bit of a challenge. So it's awesome that you're able to do that and help her just think through it a little bit differently. And it's not in an attacking way, so she doesn't get defensive,
Well,
right? Not
and
that you ever deliberately are attacking, but it can come across that way to the child, right?
oh, 100%. And, like we just got report cards back from the school, and they were very good. Like some of the things that were said in there by the teachers, it's like, oh, so So they are learning things at home. They may not be practicing it at home, but when they go out in public, they actually like, have heard and learned, and they're actually practicing what we've taught them in public amongst other people. Like it was good to see that kind of reflection. So, what you guys do at Base Case and Build, it gives that other touch point for Anna to hear it from other adults and give her some other knowledge that's not coming from us, which I think is a huge thing. Like, they learn so much at school and then they learn in the home, but to have like one more extra touch point of like that knowledge or education, I think is going to be a big difference.
Absolutely. Especially as they become older teenagers when then their parents know nothing, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm sure you're looking forward to the next few years or whatever of that.
Oh, I'm just gonna send her to you and Jay. I'm just gonna be like, go talk to Base Case and Build. Like, go into your group chat and figure this
Yeah.
stuff out and let me know how it goes.
That's funny. Obviously I don't have any teenage, but I have a little brother who I'm 12 years older than. I remember when he was a teenager. He played a sport that I played, and my dad would tell him like, "Hey, you should really do this." And he's like, "No, that's not right, Dad." And he's like, "Okay, it is, but like, ask your brother then." And he called
Yeah.
me. "No, Dad's right." He's like, "That's dumb." Just a
Yeah.
typical kind of teenager thing. It's just funny how kids can get that way with their parents. So I love that. That's a really good point. That it is helpful to have another just adult or group of adult figures in their life that they can trust and
Yeah.
learn from.
Yeah. That are teaching the fundamentals and principles and tools that I also value.
Yeah. So I want to ask how. So that's the biggest benefits. Well, I mean, you kind of covered the second part of that question as well that I was going to ask. But what were the biggest benefits of Base Case and Build on like your family as a whole? And you
Well,
kind of touched on that as well already. But if
yeah,
there's
like
anything else,
unfortunately with work and life and kids and everything, time moves so fast, so that 8 weeks just blew right by. Like, there was a few things. I think Anna was sick and we also had a week of holidays, and so like it was very sporadic, but but the content's going to be there. And so me and Anna talked just the other day. Actually, I was like, we can go back and review these things, like, because a lot of times during the calls, they were like after school and kind of around our supper time, I think, is when most of them worked out. So it was a very rushed time in our house. So she might not have been fully present during the call or whatever, but it's there, and so to bring her back to these and review, I think that's going to be like the biggest benefit. Like she got the surface level exposure and caught a little bit on her first pass, but I'm really looking forward to the next pass. Like okay, let's continue these calls, let's continue going over these things, let's continue talking whenever you have questions. Like, it's allowed her to bring questions to me that she might not understand, or if something didn't click right. So that's opened up a little bit, not as much as I was hoping. I was really hoping like, oh, me and her just gonna be bonding every day about Base Case and Build. And like, it wasn't quite that, but it has opened up another thing that we and her can bond on and connect on.
it's amazing. Thanks for sharing that, my friend. Thank you for sharing that. So I'm curious, how do you see this helping her like moving forward, like in her future? What are yeah, let's leave it at that.
Yeah, I'm stoked. Who knows? It depends, I guess. There's some language, I guess, but yeah, her being 11, I think, and just learning some other ways to deal with feelings and emotions, and they definitely have more resources at schools than when I grew up, but I think just giving her some more options on how to understand all those feelings and be able to put it into a perspective or a framework or a tool or whatever. Yeah, we'll see. I'm excited, actually. It's kind of like my own little experiment, I guess, is what I'm gonna see, like how she implements them, and I can look back on how I was at a teenager or what I've seen from my sister's kids, and they're a little bit older than my daughters. So I've seen them go through their teenage years. Now, let's see what Anna can do with this education, and I'm excited because I personally know how much it's affected me and how much it's changed my direction and operating system. So yeah, I'm really excited about the future.
That's awesome. I am too. That's part of why. I mean, that's why Jay started this whole thing. Why Ann and I wanted to get involved is because it's like, man, what if we learned these things as kids? Like,
Yeah.
wow. So that's
Yeah.
why we're so excited.
What if there was a way we could give kids core values at like 11, 12, 13, 15, 16? Like what if you could instill some core values that they could use in real life instances at that age?
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, one of my favorite ones that we talked about is playing your game,
Yeah.
right? And because I just think about like how important that is, because especially with how, at least, I mean, you're in Canada, I don't know much about your education system, but here in the States, our education system a lot of the time beats the creativity and uniqueness out of kids.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes me sad, right?
Mm-hmm.
Our public education. And so that, like, I just think about like how important that is that these kids understand and embrace themselves and their strengths at a young age so they can hang on to that either through kind of the education process,
Mm-hmm.
right? They can see and put stuff through the filter of like, okay, I see why this is important, but how do I make it like, rather than giving up me, fitting stuff into me?
Mm-hmm.
That
Yeah.
makes sense.
Oh
Uh,
no, that's a powerful topic actually, because like the world nowadays encourages everybody to be their own and embrace your uniqueness, but at the same time confuses the shit out of kids. So for them to be able to look in and see what they actually want to be, um moving forward, yeah, that's gonna help. Like I think it'll lessen their confusion. They'll be more able to answer that question openly and honestly with themselves, instead of just letting peer groups or friend groups or society tell them how and what they should be.
I agree very much. I agree. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see. I have one more. Oh, I want to remind you and kind of that you guys still have, and she has access to the community of these kids that she's been learning with,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And I think that is such a powerful thing that, when these kids have, hard things happen, whatever, they can come to a group of peers and talk about these things and ask for help. Because I know for us in the communities that we share, being able to do that is such a powerful thing, and being able
Mm-hmm.
to get perspectives from people that have learned the same tools and have the same kind of foundations that we have.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I just kind of was like as a reminder, but also just wanted to get your kind of thoughts on that.
Oh, yeah. Like how many times, can you remember back in high school where you got mad at your best friend and had nobody to talk to? But if you had a community that was kind of outside your in real life friend group that you could go talk to, that might have the answers or the guidance or even just an open ear to like let you talk about it, that's going to be pretty cool. Like those kids through the 8 weeks got to know each other and hear stories, so they have a connection. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Awesome. All right, last question. What would you say to parents that have hesitations about signing their kids up for this program? Like not having enough time or, being too busy, like things like that. Some of those hesitations, what would you say? Because I know that's actually a one, as you've talked about, that's one of the challenges you guys faced, right? Was having a pretty busy schedule.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if that's your hesitation, is the time and commitment, that it's such a tricky one. Like the time and commitment in a parent's life is very busy. they if they have after school sports or extracurricular activities or other interests, I can say that the calls are recorded. They're the community is always there. You're going to have access to the content past the 8 weeks. So getting exposure is the most important part, I would say. you know of course you guys want people to join and be on the lives and get because there's nothing like being on a live call to get the energy and the value out of it. But replays are there, and they're just as like, you can still draw the value out of it. I wouldn't let that be a roadblock. I would encourage you to take a look at base case and build, and the fundamentals and the principles that they're teaching are core values that I've adopted and that I want my kids to learn. And we've discussed how, stuff coming from parents is sometimes pushed back on by kids. So, giving them a community to learn this, that's the important part to me, is just getting them exposure to this stuff. And if they don't catch it because they're 10 and 11, that's fine. That's fine. They're going to have this community and this group of peers to continue to grow with. And that's the key part, like, helping them learn how to learn, or even unlearn what they've learned up to this point. Like, there's so many good things coming out of base case and build that is just powerful enough to just get your kid exposed to it, to start them on the proper path, or at least give them an option.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Thank
Yeah,
you.
man. I can't say enough good things about base case and build. I'm just so excited about giving these options to these kids.
Yeah. One of the things that I've kind of heard in what you've been talking about, you haven't said outright, but I've kind of heard the theme in the undertones of what you said is, and I think it's important for people to understand, is with something like this, it's probably worth sacrificing one extracurricular activity for these kids to build this foundation during these 8 weeks. Because then once they pick it up again or start doing something, whatever, this is something that will help them excel in every aspect of their life moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, I just want people to think about that, right? If as an adult, there's something that you're like, oh, if I do this thing and learn these things, it's going to impact every aspect and help me be better and more efficient and whatever at every part of my life, what would you sacrifice to be able to do that? And that's essentially what this does for these kids.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. You're totally right, man. Like 8 weeks for your kid to have a toolbox to lean into for the rest of their life. Like, okay, that sounds like an easy decision. Are they gonna miss 8 weeks of soccer, or 8 weeks of volleyball or dance class or whatever? They'll be able to go back and pick that up after the 8 weeks if that's what it is. But just the exposure and opportunity to be a part of this, that's where it is.
Awesome. Thank you. I don't have any other questions for you, Dwayne. You are awesome. I'm excited. I'm glad you're able to make time and join us on this, and excited to continue to see what Anna does in her life and follow her journey and see her as part of the community. This 8 weeks, this foundations program is just the beginning as well with base case and build. Because as you know, I think someone that knows all these other principles that we can teach, we're excited to be able to get to that point where we can move kids up to that next level even. That's in the future, right?
Yeah,
but it's just exciting, man. It's just exciting.
100% it is. Like, it's an infinite game, man. You never stop learning, right? So, and that, I think that's part of the excitement factor, is if we can, if kids can start learning at a young age and be excited and curious to keep learning, the world just opens up if they're curious and continue to learn and are encouraged to play their game and move closer, like all these things. So yeah, I'm excited to continue to build inside the den along base case and build, man. Like it's fun, and we're going to continue to support you as much as we can. Yeah, really looking forward to what you guys got coming.
Thank you. We appreciate it. All right. I think we're going to wrap it up. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you on the next episode.